The night sky was clear and full of stars. In the quiet mountains near Colorado, the forest lay calm under the silver light of the moon. Ethan Voss sat outside his small cabin, looking at the peaceful world around him. He liked being alone. After many years working as a search and rescue ranger, Ethan had left the busy life behind. Now he lived far from cities, close to nature. Suddenly, a bright light streaked across the sky. It moved fast and looked like a shooting star. But this was no ordinary star. Ethan's eyes widened as the light grew closer and closer, heading straight toward the forest. With a loud, deep roar, the object crashed into the trees not far from his cabin. The ground shook beneath his feet. Ethan jumped up and grabbed his flashlight. Without thinking, he ran toward the crash site. The air smelled strange, like burning metal mixed with something unfamiliar. When he reached the place, smoke and sparks rose from a crater in the earth. There, in the middle of broken trees and burning dirt, lay a figure. Ethan's heart beat faster. The figure was a woman, but she was unlike any person Ethan had ever seen. Her skin was pale with a faint blue glow. Her eyes were large and dark, almost shining. She wore strange clothes that looked like metal and fabric combined. She was badly hurt. Her breathing was weak, and blood stained her clothes. Ethan knelt beside her carefully. She opened her eyes and looked at him with fear and pain. "Are you okay?" Ethan asked softly, not sure if she understood his words. She tried to speak, but only made a soft sound. Ethan knew he had to help her quickly. He took off his jacket and gently wrapped it around her wounds. His years of training kicked in. He found a small first aid kit in his backpack and cleaned her cuts as best as he could. The woman's eyes moved slowly, and then she whispered in a strange voice, "Why are you saving me?" Ethan blinked in surprise. He wasn't sure if she spoke English or if the words made sense. He smiled gently. "Because I'm human. We help those in need." The woman's lips barely moved again, but this time, her eyes showed a flicker of hope. Ethan helped her stand and slowly carried her back to his cabin. The path was dark and full of fallen branches, but he moved carefully, afraid she might fall. Inside the cabin, Ethan placed her on a makeshift bed. He wrapped her in blankets and sat by her side. "Who are you?" Ethan asked again, trying to sound calm. The woman's breathing steadied. She looked at a small device on her wrist that glowed faintly. Ethan recognized it as some kind of translator, something that could help her speak in his language. She pressed a button and the device started to make soft humming sounds. After a moment, her voice came through, clearer but still weak. "I am Kira," she said. "From far away." Ethan nodded slowly. "Where is far away? Are you from another planet?" Kira's eyes widened. She looked at Ethan with surprise. Then she nodded slowly. "Yes, my world is very far. I was running. They were chasing me." Ethan's mind raced. He had heard stories of aliens before but never met one. Now he was face to face with one, and she was hurt. She needed help. The hours passed. Ethan gave Kira water and small food he had prepared. She was weak but started to regain strength. The translator device helped them talk a little more. "My people, they want to hurt me," Kira said quietly, "because I know things they do not want others to see." Ethan frowned. "You're in danger?" She nodded. "Yes. They chase me across space. If they find me here, they will destroy this place. They do not care about your world." Ethan looked outside at the dark forest. He felt a strange mix of fear and determination. "Then I won't let them find you." Kira's eyes searched his face, and for the first time she smiled faintly. Why save me?" Ethan thought about the question. He remembered the friends he had lost during rescue missions long ago, the people he could not save, the guilt that stayed with him. Now here was someone from far away, alone and hurt. Saving her was not just about being kind. It was a chance to do what was right, because, Ethan said quietly, helping others is what makes us human. Kira looked at him, her eyes full of something like hope. Ethan felt a warmth inside his chest, a feeling he had not known for a long time. Outside, the wind blew softly through the trees. The night held its breath as if waiting for what would come next. Ethan sat by the fire, watching over Kira as she rested. He knew this was only the beginning. Something big was coming, and he would face it. For now, he would protect this strange visitor from the stars. Because in saving her, he might just save a part of himself too. The morning sun rose slowly, casting warm light over the forest around Ethan's cabin. Kira lay wrapped in blankets, still weak but resting peacefully. Ethan sat nearby, cleaning the small wounds on his own hands. The night had been long, full of questions and quiet moments. Ethan looked at Kira. She was still unlike anyone he had ever seen. Her skin had a soft, pale blue color that seemed to glow faintly in the sunlight. Her large, dark eyes closed as she slept, but every so often her fingers twitched like she was dreaming of faraway places. Ethan wished he could understand more about her world. The translator device she wore helped a little, but the words were slow and broken. Still, it was better than nothing. As the day grew brighter, Ethan went outside to gather firewood. His hands were rough from years of hard work in the forest, but his mind was restless. He thought about his past, the days when he worked with a rescue team running into dangerous places to save people. Years ago, Ethan had lost his best friends during a mission in the mountains. A sudden storm had trapped them, and despite his best efforts, they couldn't escape. That failure haunted him every day since. He left the rescue team and moved to this quiet place to find peace. But now, everything was changing again. Back inside, Kira slowly opened her eyes. She sat up, blinking against the sunlight. Ethan noticed how delicate she looked and went to pour her some water. "Thank you," she said softly through the translator device. Ethan smiled. "You're safe here. Don't worry." Kira's eyes searched his face, curious and full of questions. She tried to speak more, but the words came slowly. "My people. They do not like what I know," she said. "I am a scientist. I found truths that should be hidden." Ethan listened carefully. "What kind of truths?" Kira looked away, her expression darkening. "My government, they do terrible things. War, lies, pain. I wanted peace, but they would not listen. So I ran." Ethan thought about the governments on Earth and how many people suffered because of power and greed. But this was different. This was a world far from Earth, with problems he could hardly imagine. "I want to help you," Ethan said quietly. "But why come to Earth?" Kira smiled faintly. "Because Earth is small. They think it is not important. I hope to hide here." Ethan's heart tightened. "They will find you here." Kira nodded slowly. "Yes, and if they do, it will be bad for you too." Ethan's mind raced. He looked out the window at the forest, feeling the weight of the danger Kira brought with her. But he also felt something else. Hope. Maybe this was a chance to do something good again. "Tell me about your world," Ethan said. "Maybe we can find a way to stop them." Kira's eyes brightened. For the first time, she began to speak more clearly. "My planet is called Lyra. It is beautiful. Oceans, forests, skies full of stars. But it is ruled by a harsh government called the Dominion. They control everything. People live in fear." Ethan nodded. "Sounds like some places here on Earth." Kira looked surprised. "You know this?" Ethan shrugged. "We have our problems, but people here want freedom. They fight for it." Kira's face showed sadness. "I wish it were easier to change things. But the Dominion has power beyond what you can imagine. They have ships that fly faster than light, weapons that can destroy cities." Ethan took a deep breath. "Then we'll have to be clever and strong." Kira smiled a little. "You remind me of my people's legends, the heroes who stood against darkness." Ethan laughed softly. "Maybe I'm not a hero, just a man who tries to do what is right." They sat together, sharing stories and learning from each other. For a moment, The past and the present seemed to join. Two strangers from different worlds connected by hope. Later that afternoon, Ethan went outside again. He checked his old radio and satellite gear, hoping to find any sign of Kira's pursuers. He turned on the small antenna, listening carefully. Static filled the air, but nothing clear came through. Ethan frowned. They're coming, soon. Inside, Kira stood by the window, looking at the forest. I fear for your world, she whispered. Ethan came back in and sat beside her. I'll protect it. You don't have to be alone. Kira looked at him, tears in her eyes. Why are you so kind to me? I'm a stranger from another star. Ethan smiled gently. Because kindness is what makes us human, no matter where we come from. That night, Ethan lay awake, thinking. The peaceful life he had chosen was ending. Something new and dangerous was coming. But for the first time in years, he felt ready. He looked at Kira, who slept quietly on the bed. We'll face this together, he promised. Outside, the forest was still. But somewhere beyond the stars, a shadow moved closer. The days passed, quietly at first, but Ethan knew it would not last. Every sound in the forest felt sharper, every shadow heavier. Kira stayed mostly inside the cabin, resting and gaining strength while Ethan prepared for what was coming. He used his old survival skills to reinforce the cabin. He placed traps around the property, simple but effective, tripwires with noise, makers, small pit traps covered with leaves, and old flare guns ready to fire. Ethan knew the forest well, and he planned to use it to their advantage. One afternoon, Ethan sat by the radio, trying to pick up any signals from the sky. The machine crackled with static, but suddenly a strange pattern appeared. It was not random. It was a message in a language he didn't understand. But the sound was cold, mechanical, and dangerous. Ethan's heart pounded. He showed the message to Kira. She looked grim. They are close, she said softly. They send hunters, machines that find and destroy. Ethan nodded, his jaw tight. We need to be ready. Kira sat down, pulling the translator device closer. She began to explain more about the hunters. They are drones, not like anything on Earth. They fly fast and do not stop. They have weapons that can burn and break. Everything. Ethan listened carefully. Can we fight them? Kira shook her head slowly. Alone? No. But with help? Maybe. Ethan thought of his life here. No armies, no weapons strong enough to fight machines from space. But he also thought of the forest, his knowledge of it, and the cleverness of people. We will use what we have, Ethan said firmly. As the sun went down, the forest became quiet, but Ethan and Kira did not sleep. They sat by the small fire talking about the coming danger. Kira's face was serious. If they find me, they will destroy this area to stop me. Many people will be hurt. Ethan looked around. Not if I stop them first. The night passed slowly. Then far above the trees a strange sound came, a humming noise like a swarm of angry bees. Ethan stood and looked up. The sky was dark, but lights moved quickly across it. The hunter drones had arrived. They were small but fast machines glowing with blue light. Their shapes were sharp and strange, not like any aircraft Ethan had seen. They moved in groups, scanning the forest below with bright beams. Ethan grabbed his flare gun and motioned to Kira. Stay inside. I'll try to slow them down. Kira nodded, fear in her eyes. Be careful. Ethan moved quietly into the trees, using his knowledge of the land. He set off noise traps, making the drones change direction. The machines were smart, but not perfect. Using a flare, Ethan blinded one drone's sensors for a moment. It crashed into a tree with a loud crash, sparks flying. Kira watched from the cabin window, hope and worry mixing in her heart. You are brave, she whispered. Ethan smiled to himself but did not stop. The drones were coming closer. Suddenly one drone spotted him. Its lights flashed red as it sent a signal to others. More drones moved fast toward Ethan's position. He ran through the forest, dodging trees and jumping over rocks. His mind raced, trying to find a way to stop the machines. He reached a narrow canyon. With quick thinking, Ethan rolled a large boulder down the slope. The rock hit the ground with a thunderous crash, blocking the path. The drone slowed, confused by the sudden obstacle. Ethan caught his breath and fired another flare, causing one drone to crash into the rocks. But there were too many. The drones regrouped and sent a new wave, faster and more aggressive. Ethan's ankle twisted as he jumped over a fallen tree. He fell hard but pushed himself up, pain sharp in his leg. He needed help. Back at the cabin, Kira watched the drones closely. Her knowledge of alien technology was limited, but she found something on her device. "There," she said, pointing. "A weakness." Ethan hurried back to the cabin, leaning on a walking stick. Kira explained quickly, "They have a signal. If we can jam it, they will lose control." Ethan looked at the small radio and old electronics in the cabin. "I can try." They worked together, Kira guiding Ethan as he connected wires and adjusted antennas. Outside, the drones moved closer, searching for their target. Then, with a soft buzz, the jamming signal began. The drones wobbled in the air, their lights flickering. One by one, the machines lost control and crashed into the trees or ground. Ethan and Kira watched in silence. But the danger was not gone. A loud sound came from the sky. A bigger ship was arriving. Kira's face was pale. They sent a leader, a ship that controls the drones. Ethan stood tall, despite the pain. "Then we fight harder." Kira nodded. Together. The forest seemed to hold its breath. For Ethan, this was no longer just a fight to protect a stranger. It was a battle for their future. The injured alien woman and the lone man from Earth had become a team, and the story of their courage was only beginning. The sky grew darker as evening approached, but Ethan's cabin was alive with tension. The small forest clearing that had once felt safe was now filled with the heavy hum of strange machines and the distant glow of alien lights. Kira and Ethan sat near the window, watching the forest canopy. Their faces were serious, eyes sharp and ready for what was coming. Suddenly, the night sky was lit by a bright beam of light. A large ship slowly descended from the stars, a massive dark vessel unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. It hovered above the treetops, silent but powerful. Ethan's heart beat faster. "That must be the leader ship." Kira nodded, her fingers tightening around the translator device. "The mothership. It controls the drones. If it stays here, the drones will keep coming. We must find a way to stop it." Ethan looked around the cabin, thinking quickly. "We don't have any weapons like theirs, but we have the forest." Outside, the forest was alive with movement. Small animals scattered, sensing danger. The wind whispered through the trees like a warning. Ethan stood and took a deep breath. "I'll draw the drones away from here. You stay safe." Kira looked at him, worry in her eyes. "We must act together. Alone it is too dangerous." Ethan smiled softly. "Then we act together." The night was still, but tension filled the air like thunder before a storm. Ethan grabbed his backpack and a flare gun. "Follow me," he said. They moved quietly into the forest, shadows among the trees. Ethan led Kira toward a rocky ridge, overlooking the clearing where the mothership hovered. As they moved, Kira explained more about the Dominion's technology. "The mothership has a core," she said. "If we can destroy it, the drones will lose power." Ethan listened carefully. "How do we get close?" Kira shook her head. "The ship's shields are strong, but there is a small service hatch. It opens for repairs sometimes." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Then we wait for that moment." They found a place to hide near the ridge. From there they could see the mothership's glowing underbelly and the drones moving below like ants. Suddenly the silence broke. A group of drones flew overhead, searching for signs of life. Ethan fired a flare into the air. The bright red light exploded like a flower, drawing attention. The drones swerved toward the flare, and Ethan and Kira dashed into the trees, moving deeper into the forest. They ran fast, but Kira stumbled. Ethan caught her arm. "Are you okay?" She nodded, breathing hard. "The injury from the crash, and it still hurts." Ethan glanced at her pale face, then gently supported her as they moved on. Deeper in the forest, Ethan spotted a narrow path leading toward the back of the mothership. This might be the way. They crept closer, hearts pounding. Then, a sudden noise, metal scraping against metal. The service hatch began to open slowly. Ethan and Kira exchanged a glance. This was their chance. With Kira's help, Ethan climbed the rocky slope and reached the hatch. It was just big enough for one person. Kira looked at him worried. Be careful. Ethan nodded and slipped inside the dark interior. The inside of the mothership was cold and silent. Strange lights blinked along the walls. Ethan moved carefully, listening for sounds of guards or machines. He followed a narrow corridor toward the glowing core room. The hum of energy grew louder with every step. Then, Ethan saw it. The core. A large orb of bright energy, surrounded by cables and metal. It pulsed like a beating heart. Ethan took a deep breath. He looked at the device in his hand, a small explosive Kira had helped him prepare using parts from the cabin and some alien technology she carried. He attached the device carefully to the core. The timer counted down silently. 10, 9, 8. Suddenly alarms blared through the ship. Ethan froze. Heavy footsteps came from the corridor. Guards were coming. Ethan grabbed the device and ran toward the hatch. The corridor shook as machines moved to block him. He fired his flare, blinding the guards briefly. With a burst of speed, Ethan reached the hatch and climbed out. Outside, Kira waited anxiously. Ethan dropped down beside her, breathing hard. The core is rigged to explode, he said. We have moments. The mothership shuddered as the explosion began inside. A bright light burst out from the ship, shaking the forest. The drones in the clearing began to lose power. Their lights flickered and then went out. Ethan and Kira ran from the forest, feeling the ground tremble beneath their feet. They stopped at the edge of the clearing, watching as the mothership lost control and slowly began to fall. Did we win? Kira asked, hope in her voice. Ethan smiled, wiping sweat from his forehead. For now. But both knew this was only the beginning. The Dominion would not stop so easily. Together, they stood under the stars, ready to face whatever came next. The forest was quiet again. The mothership lay broken in a smoking crater not far from Ethan's cabin. But the danger was not over. The Dominion's forces would come back, stronger and faster. Ethan and Kira returned to the cabin, tired but alive. Kira sat down, her eyes still filled with worry. We slowed them down, Ethan said quietly. But they will not give up. Kira nodded. The Dominion has many ships and many soldiers. We need allies. Ethan looked at her thoughtfully. Where do we find allies here? This place is remote. Kira thought for a moment. There are people on Earth who can help, people who have fought for peace and justice. Ethan smiled faintly. You mean the rescue teams? Kira's face brightened. Yes, your experience and their strength could be our advantage. Ethan nodded slowly. Then we need to contact them. The next morning, Ethan and Kira prepared to leave the cabin. For the first time since the fight began, Ethan packed his radio gear and some supplies. Kira gathered the few tools she had brought from Lyra. Before leaving, Kira looked back at the cabin. This place gave me hope. Thank you. Ethan smiled. We will fight this together. They began their journey toward the nearest town, where Ethan hoped to find the rescue team. As they walked, Ethan told Kira stories about Earth's people and their struggles for freedom. Kira listened, fascinated by the courage and kindness she heard. But the journey was not easy. The forest was still dangerous. Small drones and scouts searched for signs of Kira. One night, as they camped near a river, a strange sound came from the shadows. Ethan grabbed his flare gun, ready to defend, but instead of drones, a figure stepped into the firelight, a tall man with a calm face and steady eyes. Who are you? Ethan asked cautiously. The man smiled. My name is Jonas. I heard your flare. I am part of a group that fights against those who harm innocent people. Kira looked at Jonas carefully. Are you friend or enemy? Jonas raised his hands. Friend, we know about the Dominion. We want to help. Ethan studied Jonas for a moment, then nodded. We could use allies. Jonas sat by the fire and shared news. The Dominion has been watching Earth for some time. They fear we will stop their plans. We must act quickly. Kira looked hopeful. Then we must plan. The next days were filled with meetings and preparation. Jonas led them to a hidden base where others waited, men and women skilled in technology, survival, and combat. Kira shared her knowledge of the Dominion's weaknesses, and Ethan taught survival tactics. Jonas and his team helped build plans to defend Earth and stop the Dominion's forces. One night, as the group gathered around a map, Kira pointed to a cluster of Dominion outposts on the planet's surface. If we can destroy these outposts, she said, their supply lines will break. They will lose power. Ethan looked at the map. We need a strike team, small, fast, and clever. Jonas smiled. That sounds like us. Kira and Ethan exchanged glances. For the first time, they felt hope, not just for survival, but for victory. But there was a problem. The Dominion outposts were heavily guarded with advanced weapons and soldiers. Ethan frowned. We need a way in. A secret path. Kira nodded. I know of a place. A forgotten tunnel beneath their main outpost. It was built for emergencies. Jonas looked surprised. Can you take us there? Yes, Kira said. But it is dangerous. We will have to move quickly and quietly. Ethan stood. Then we prepare. The team spent days training and gathering supplies. Ethan and Kira grew closer, their friendship deepening through shared danger and hope. Finally, the night came to move. The strike team set out under cover of darkness, moving silently through forests and hills toward the Dominion's outposts. Kira led the way, using her knowledge of the land and enemy patrols. Ethan followed, ready for anything. As they reached the main outpost, the tension grew. Guards patrolled the walls, searchlights swept the area, and distant alarms hummed. Kira pointed to a rocky hill nearby. The tunnel entrance is there. Ethan nodded. Let's move. They climbed quietly and found the hidden entrance, a small door covered with dirt and stones. Jonas and his team worked quickly to open it. Inside, the tunnel was dark and narrow, but it led deep beneath the outpost. They moved through the tunnel, hearts pounding with every step. Suddenly, the tunnel shook, a warning that their time was running out. We must hurry, Kira whispered. The end of the tunnel, a large room, held the outpost control center. The team set explosives around the equipment. Ethan checked his watch. 5 minutes before detonation. The group moved back through the tunnel, emerging outside just as alarms began to sound. From the hill, they watched as the outpost exploded in a fiery blast, sending shockwaves through the air. Ethan smiled, breathing deeply. That will slow them down. Kira looked at the sky. But the war is far from over. Jonas put a hand on Ethan's shoulder. We fight together. For Earth, for Lyra, for freedom. Under the stars, the three of them stood united, a human, an alien, and a warrior from Earth. Their fight had only begun, but hope burned brightly in their hearts. The explosion from the destroyed Dominion outpost echoed through the valley, shaking the earth beneath Ethan, Kira, and Jonas as they watched from the safety of the nearby forest. The fireball lit the night sky like a second sun, and the sharp scent of burning metal filled the air. But the celebration was brief. The Dominion would respond, and fast. Ethan tightened his grip on his flare gun, eyes scanning the dark horizon. They won't forget this, Kira nodded, her face serious. They will send more forces and they will be angry. Jonas turned toward the two, voice steady. Then we must be ready. We've made our move, but the real fight begins now. The three of them returned to their hidden base. The team was preparing for the coming battle, repairing weapons, setting up defenses, and training for every possible attack. Ethan helped fortify the base, using his survival knowledge to build traps and hidden paths. Kira shared her understanding of Dominion technology, teaching the team how to detect and disrupt their communications. Days passed with tension thick in the air. Every sound made them jump. Every shadow seemed like a threat. One evening, Kira approached Ethan and Jonas. "I've been working on a plan to send a message to other planets in this star system. If we can call for help, maybe more allies will come." Jonas raised an eyebrow. "Do you think the Dominion will allow it?" Kira smiled faintly. "We will do it quietly. If we succeed, it could change everything." Ethan nodded. "Then we make sure it works." The group gathered in the base's communication room. Kira connected her alien device to their radio system, tuning it carefully to the right frequency. The signal crackled and hissed, then a clear message began to broadcast into space, a call for help, a warning about the Dominion's threat, and a plea for allies to stand with them. They watched the stars, hoping their message would be heard. Suddenly, the base's alarm screamed. Red lights flashed as the Dominion forces attacked. Outside, the forest was filled with the hum of drones and the roar of ships. The team sprang into action. Ethan took command of the defense, directing the fighters and setting traps. Kira worked on jamming the enemy's communications, trying to keep their advantage. Jonas led a squad to protect the base's vulnerable points. The battle was fierce. The Dominion's machines were strong and relentless, but the humans in Kira's team fought with courage and cleverness. Ethan fired flare guns and used his knowledge of the forest to lead enemy drones into traps. Kira used her alien devices to confuse and disable machines. Jonas and his fighters engaged the enemy soldiers, using stealth and speed to outmaneuver them. Despite their efforts, the Dominion pushed forward, breaking through some defenses. In the chaos, Kira was injured by a falling beam. Ethan rushed to her side, his heart pounding. "Stay with me," he said firmly. Kira smiled weakly. "I will, but we must keep fighting." Ethan helped her to a safer spot. Jonas took over her role, continuing the jamming efforts. The battle lasted for hours, the night sky alive with flashes of light and the sounds of explosions. Just when it seemed the Dominion would overwhelm them, a new sound filled the air, a fleet of ships, faster and brighter than any before. From the stars, reinforcements had arrived. The new allies quickly joined the fight, pushing back the Dominion forces with powerful weapons and shields. Ethan, Kira, and Jonas watched with relief as their side gained the upper hand. The Dominion ships began to retreat, disappearing into the night sky. When the battle ended, the base was damaged but still standing. Kira, though weak, smiled. "Our message was heard." Ethan looked at the stars. "Help has come." Jonas shook hands with Ethan. "This is just the beginning. We must be ready for what comes next." The three stood together, tired but hopeful. They had fought for their world, for each other, and for the future. And now, with new allies by their side, they were ready to face the challenges ahead. The fight for freedom was far from over, but Ethan and Kira knew they would never stand alone again. The battle was over. The Dominion forces had retreated, their power broken for now. The sky was quiet, filled only with the soft light of dawn. Ethan, Kira, and Jonas stood on a hill overlooking the forest and the small base they had fought to protect. The damage was clear. Trees were burned and the ground was scarred. But the spirit of those who fought was stronger than ever. Kira looked at the rising sun, her eyes filled with hope. "We survived," Ethan smiled. "More than that, we won." Jonas nodded. "But this victory is only the start. The Dominion is still out there." Kira turned to Ethan. "What will you do now?" Ethan thought for a moment. "I will help rebuild. We need to be ready if they return." Jonas looked at the others. "And we will be ready. With new friends and new strength, their new allies had begun to arrive. Fighters from nearby planets and distant stars all united against the Dominion's threat. The small base was growing, becoming a beacon of hope and resistance. Kira felt the weight of her past and the promise of the future. She reached out and took Ethan's hand. "Thank you for saving me, for fighting with me." Ethan looked into her eyes. "No one is saved alone. We all need each other. Together, they walked back to the base where people were working to repair and strengthen their home. Inside, the team gathered to share stories and plans. They spoke of peace, freedom, and the dream of a galaxy where no one lived in fear. Kira shared messages from her home planet, stories of bravery and kindness that inspired everyone. Ethan and Jonas talked about Earth's struggles and hopes, finding common ground in their shared desire for safety and justice. As days passed, the team trained harder, building stronger defenses and smarter strategies. They built new communication systems, connecting with more planets and allies. Their message of hope and resistance spread like wildfire. One evening, as the sun set in bright colors, Ethan stood outside the base looking at the stars. Kira joined him, her arm around his shoulder. "Do you think we will ever live in peace?" she asked softly. Ethan smiled. "I believe we will. Because we fight for it." Kira nodded. "And because we are not alone." Jonas approached, carrying a small device. "We intercepted a message from the Dominion. They are regrouping, but they know we are strong." Ethan looked at the device and then at his friends. "Then we keep fighting, together." The three of them stood united, ready to face whatever the future held. The stars above were bright and full of promise. For the first time in a long time, the galaxy felt a little safer. And so, a new chapter began. Not just for Ethan and Kira, but for all who dreamed of a better tomorrow. A future where kindness, courage, and hope could shine even in the darkest times. The battle for freedom was not over, but the people who stood together had found something stronger than fear. They had found each other.